Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the aspects of the settlement overall, and with the hope of kind of talking to some of the at-large council people who have been involved in this for quite some time. So we'll start off with kind of what's to me, the least important, but it does hammer home the importance of precedence overall. The $1 million that we keep talking about, we discussed this in the caucus, that's earmarked towards the Lowe's in the museum. And I'm going to say this just as it relates to future things as well. I find it wrong and borderline, I don't know if it's legal or borderline unethical as far as I always feel like we're taking these monies and earmarking them towards foundations that people on the council have certain interests in. And there's a budget process for this city where we allocate money to those organizations, and that's the proper way to do it, and it's just wrong to do it this way. So I just wanted to touch on that as it relates to the $1 million. As far as the artist housing, let's talk about that as far as what it does to the pad. So, and let's not kid ourselves about it. There's a 90-day marketing period for 60 units, and then it reverts back to market rate housing, right? There's a clear disincentive for the developer to market it to artists, clearly, from an economic standpoint. Let's make the argument that he's going to go above and beyond and market it properly. There's no mechanism in place that those artists who buy it at a 30% discount in 5 years or 4 years, when they sell it at 100% and make that margin, there's going to be no artist there. So let's not kid ourselves about what we're creating here. So right off the bat, I'm going to say that. As far as the world-class architect, it's a nice thing to have, but I would argue that as well, that that's a benefit for the developer the same way it is for the city. I could guarantee you that on every piece of marketing material that he's going to distribute when he sells those places, that front and center is going to be who the architect is, and it's going to be factored into the price. So I don't really look at it as an economic benefit for us. It's a nice thing, but it's really not a great thing. Let's talk about the affordable housing unit. So this is a nice thing. This is obviously something that's very, very important to the city, and I commend you for pursuing it. The reality of this is that, and I'm going to touch on the facts as it relates to taxes, because I'm going to tie this in as well, because knowing some of my colleagues on the council here, I'm going to anticipate the fact that they're going to say that this structure is going to give significantly more taxes to the city, and I'm going to tie it into the affordable housing unit as both benefits without doubt. But if you look at market dynamics as it relates to real estate, there is no incentive for this individual to build this. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock, the Fed will raise interest rates for the 16th straight time, okay? There's 10,000 units online in downtown Jersey City right now. What we're essentially doing is that this property was zoned industrial at some point. We all know that. What we are doing basically is upping the value 5 times, 10 times to this developer, okay? And there's no incentive for him to build it. So at the end of the day, it's going to sit the same in all likelihood, and we're just basically giving him a lot of money for basically nothing in return, okay? Say as far as it relates to the $100 million lawsuit. Okay, that's a little scary number. And we've discussed as far as what we look like as far as our perspective from a strength of argument. But at the end, there's strengths and weaknesses, like any lawsuit over here. But at the end of the day, there are $75 million worth of fines on the other side as well. And there are strengths and weaknesses for that as well. So I would argue that, Bill, that we're in a wash situation over there, that we have as much leverage in this situation as he does, and we shouldn't bend just because of the fact that there's that $100 million number. And that's an important thing to talk about. The final thing, as it relates to aspects of this lawsuit, and I would hammer this home for the 3 at-large individuals who go after me, is the fact that, you might say that we're going to stop spending money as it relates to lawsuits. And the fact of the matter is that there are 2 developers in that property that I certainly know firsthand, and that if you think for one instance that we can remove 111 and 110 and rezone it to the integrity of the Powerhouse Arts District, and they're not going to look for the same density and same size, you're kidding yourself. It's absolutely a delusional perspective, because I can promise you that a lawsuit will be filed by next week and we'll be in the same predicament with another developer. So now I'm going to tell you one other thing, and and just to wrap this up, I would say that most of the people downtown, as far as Josh Parkhurst and some of the people who fight for the historic preservation, they would say that I certainly, and I would be the first to say that I'm not a big historic preservationist by any means, you know, and when I talk about different buildings as it relates to 111, I would tell you that I certainly don't have so much passion for the building, because to me, in my world, there's a difference between historic, as I said, and old. And to me, in my opinion, I never really got the historic aspect of that building. And I've said that out from the front when I ran for council, so I'm not mixing anything up there. But for me, this is about something bigger. It's about precedence over here, and it's about the will and the resolve of the city to actually fight moving forward. And if we set the precedence over here that when the lawsuit comes, then what does it say? It's really, really a sad day for Jersey City, because we've reached a point in our history or our future where it's really the patients are running the insane asylum. And that's really what it is, right? Here we are, and we had there's two large individuals after me who both had magnificent votes a year ago, and they voted 4 times on the path, and it's a thunderous applaud. And at the end of the day, it's a question of, you know, what do you believe in when it comes to you voted last time and you're resolved today to stand up to a developer? I am happy and proud to vote no for this settlement and to continue the process.